This year was challenging. You know, we went into a state of emergency earlier in the year where we were locked down, total lockdown to anybody coming and going. Just citizens that were at Hitatsu here. You know, we try to maintain that exposure and limit it. We have, Dr. Rohan and a number of different people that we consult with as on the executive level, and we make those decisions based on the best interest of our citizens.
Well, I think it was a collective effort of the leadership. It took pretty much every department to develop the Emergency Preparedness Act, and then getting the health team and the emergency operations team up and running when we needed to. That included a whole set of staff that helped get us through it. So it was a team effort.
Back in February, there was a big community vaccination clinic that happened here, and that was done from the NTC nurses. But then in May, it was actually run by me and Symbol, the nurses here, because we were able to deliver that service to our citizens. So we had another big mass vaccine clinic here in May, and then since then we've had two kind of catch-up clinics in the health centres, much smaller clinics for those who needed either a second dose or hadn't had the first.
Early in the pandemic, there was all, we've got our own health unit now, Dr. Rohan, and we have, we have a nurse, we have, CHA, or we have the doctor that actually comes over once a week. The biggest thing there was, we start offering, those type of services to our citizens here and in their own environment. They don't have to travel across the bay or, and sit over there for hours. It's convenient here. And that was one of the things that, was high on our priority list, to start giving people the services that they need. We
really updated a lot this year with a whole new set of staff to help run the new health center at the Huputu building. We have, with the transition from the NTC, we have our own nursing team. As you know, we have our psychologist, and then recently we've added a registered massage therapist, a physiotherapist, and we're looking into other things for the new year. So.
The pandemic has been a very steep learning curve for governments big and small worldwide, and I think that it's been incredibly difficult to make decisions when you're feeling like you're in the dark and not really knowing what the other side's going to look like. So it's definitely made things more difficult. However, I think with everything that's been done and what we've been working toward, it's given us good opportunity to have some really great best practices and lessons learned for our government, so that we can mount a response to future pandemics or public health crises. And with each government, you'll learn a little bit more, and hopefully those responses will be stronger and better.
Dr. Rohan Ghatak, who is our health director, has been instrumental since he's been here for about 2 years now in setting up a health clinic. And what is exciting, I think, is that it's multidisciplinary.
Citizens and the community have really shown a lot of strength in supporting each other, and I think without that sense of community spirit, it would have been a lot more difficult to maintain the government operations and for us to support each other. I think it's been a really positive outcome of a really difficult situation.
Things like, for example, from nursing, health promotion. So people who have diabetes, we talk to them about healthy diet, managing their insulin, those kind of things. I do baby development checks from newborn right through to school age. We do foot care. That's my colleague Symbol, who does diabetic foot care. We talk about medications. We assist at the Dr. Marshall's, who's the family practitioner, her clinic, that's held once a week. So yes, that's really been exciting. Just for the last probably 6 months, Dr. Carrie Marshall's been with us 1 day a week doing a family health clinic.
As you know, we're constructing this mini big house here, and that's going to be a huge celebration, I think, once we are able to open it. I understand it's going to be ready in a couple of weeks. So we'll be speaking with our Director of Health and Social Services to see what the next few months will look like.
We have a mini big house which will also house some of the ancestral belongings. We're going to use this as a cultural library, so hopefully have some videos running in the background here. So it'll have 2 offices for the Department of Culture and Heritage. It'll also house some of the ancestral belongings. It'll be used as a gathering space as well. I'm really excited for the language classes once we can get back together. It's been a long time since we've had a place to call our own, so it's really exciting. Last October, we did have a shipment come in from the Canadian Museum of History. And just recently, we had 16 more ancestral belongings come home. It's the first step in reconciliation. These ancestral belongings were used by our ancestors, by our families, so there's a real deep connection, and I'm really glad that they're back home where they belong. Some of the elders were flooded with memories of seeing these items growing up in their homes, so that was really great to hear. We had the daycare in here. Carrie was doing a private tour, and the kids were so attentive and listening, which was really great to see. I know it's hard to keep kids' attentions, but it's like they understood the importance and the power of each ancestral belonging. The instructor said that they still talk about it to this day, so that's really cool. Some of the pieces were taken as far back as 1880. There's records of them going up to 1920.
So one of the greatest accomplishments that we've had in 2021 is our work with our Manulf partners on Roosevelt elk. So earlier this year, we were working collaboratively with the Toquat Nation on co-managing a small herd of Roosevelt elk. This herd was translocated from Cowichan territory into Toquat territory, and then later in the summer some of the herd broke away and came into Yusuthlot territory. So our goal with co-managing these elk is to preserve and monitor the elk herd, acknowledging that if there is to be future harvests, that we want to do it at when the herd is at a sustainable level. We've been working with our WildSafe BC coordinators on human-wildlife conflict. Community of Itatsu has done a fantastic job this year in mitigating wildlife attractants like garbage, so making sure that the bins are locked and garbage is cleaned up. And it's really shown with the amount of animals that are staying on the periphery of the community and not coming in the community. So that's really great to see.
So one of the things that's been happening here in economic development is we're currently secured some funding through Island Coastal Economic Trust. And in the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to be beginning a community engagement around economic development. It's a community consultation. And during that time, we're really excited to hear from the community members, the youth, the elders, the general citizens, the entrepreneurs, and we're really excited to gather those voices and hear about some of their aspirations for economic development, because that's really going to influence the work that this government does in the coming years.
For me, I think in the executive, on the economic development side is, getting things that are actually moving forward. We've dealt with our zoning and structures now. We had one more reading, I believe, and then it'll be changed to accommodate. The way it was, we couldn't actually have built homes in certain places or whatever without the zoning didn't allow it, develop it. So now that we've dealt with that through our act or legislation, things will change and we'll be able to move forward and make things a lot more smoother, simpler to develop. We're looking at putting half-acre or half-acre to 1-acre lots in the back here or whatever, and for people that might be interested in developing their own housing or building on their own lots.
There's been a lot of interest in businesses doing setting up shop on TSL. Ucluelet's a very densely populated community right now with little expansion opportunities. So there has been interest from land developers and businesses to operate on TSL, considering we have really prime frontage along the Tofino-Ucluelet Highway and at the junction. So there has been a lot of interest in business on TSL.
But another part of our work has really been clarifying the difference between economic development and business development. And what economic development is creating the frameworks and the climate so that businesses can succeed here on treaty settlement lands. And so we kind of work behind the scenes a little bit on that, in that respect as well.
We're hoping to have, our office in Port Alberni and our dinners set up and bring some of our services up there on a weekly or monthly basis, whether it's, your status cards or whatever, or just to have that outreach, ability and come into our building and have coffee, and have that support.
We had participants on the community service intern program joining in with our STEM program this summer, so they were there to learn about science, technology, engineering and math. So if we're asking students to learn something through a STEM program, the why of that would be so that you learn applicable skills. So you might be learning science, but not in a silo. You're learning science alongside math, alongside engineering. And you take those skills and you apply them to a project. So you have a problem, you have a project, and then you learn skills to kind of solve the problem that you think you've got.
So one other excellent highlight that I have is that our department hired a traditional foods coordinator this year, so Neve O'Reilly. Many people would have met or seen her at the food fish distributions this year. So Neve is working across departments to look at harvesting, preparing, and preserving traditional foods along with the timeline of the New Chelmsford calendar.
The teamwork was amazing, and I think that they really enjoyed being able to work together. And we really focused on the teamwork and being able to speak to each other, communicate to each other. And I think that has helped a little bit here with the big house, just talking to each other. Back then we did the stuff like archery. We did Raymond Hapey, he used to show us a bunch of tracking skills back then. So with, I don't know what kind of stick he has, it's a specific type of stick that he has from search and rescue, and he would show us ways to use that and track. We would set traps for crabs, and we would go pull those and have fun, just getting wet and pulling the traps up and fishing, and just boating around a bit and talking to the mayor of Effingham. I think the value of it for me was the challenge in it, and being like, I don't want to do this, but the more I do it, the more I get used to it. It's like when I'm working and I'm thinking about emails and getting money to people and bills and stuff. Like, it seems daunting at first, and the more I do it, the easier it gets.
You know, from a big picture standpoint of where I think we'd like to see ourselves go in the next few years, for me, I think it's really important that we have a strategic direction so that we can implement a really thoughtful plan for us to be able to transition the next government into. Allows us to give the continuity to the next government so that when they take power, that they have the ability to keep things moving. I think it's important for governments to create and maintain momentum because that momentum raises the bar and it brings the socioeconomic and economic outcomes into a better position than before, and I think that's really the ultimate goal of any government.
We're making changes to the Zoning and Structures Act to make it easier for people to have residential housing, to have bed and breakfasts, to start businesses is the main thing. Hitatsu will stay as a homestead, right? But they've got 5 or 6 different categories in that as well that limits the size of the house. So we're gonna do a big one next year. The OCP Act is gonna get changed, and that will help Spencer for capital assets to build, well, let's be honest, what's coming, like, you know, they want to do a liquor store, they want to do a cannabis store. Why not? Every other nation you see on River Road, they just put one in there too. I mean, you might as well join the club, right? And so we're restricted right now. So we're trying to change those things, same as Waya Point. So I've done the surf shop now. If you go to the junction, we've got a new business. I've expanded the lot. I'm trying to get a crown piece so they can make it bigger, make an RV park. That's the biggest thing here last year. I've been out here for close to 40 years driving that road when it was gravel. And I mean, there's no place to stay. There's no campgrounds, so we're trying to do like the other nations, like Tokwat's built their big campsite. We need to do kind of the same thing and offer housing, affordable housing, not only to our nations, but we own land in Ucluelet and that, maybe condos, businesses, you know. That's the way to go. Because the government take back now, they want to give us tenure, so I put in a letter. We're going to go after some crown lands, and I'm just doing what's called a management plan and our timber supply analysis for our TSL lands, and I'm going to put, we want to go logging. There's money in it.
In 10 years, I mean, it's had its peaks and valleys, and I mean, just like any other government that's growing, in the infancy of this government, I mean, you know, I mean, 10 years is a blink of an eye. Look at I mean, look at the federal and the provincial government. I mean, and all the, you know, the crap we go through. I mean, just trying to establish us as, I mean, a treaty nation and not an INAC nation. They still haven't come fully gripped to the point that we are, I mean, supposedly at the same level as them. We're a government. We make those decisions based on, you know, the best interest of our citizens. It's for the community at whole that we're looking after. I mean, trying to maintain the well-being of all citizens within Hitatsa, so yeah, young and old. So.